Welcome to another episode of Before You Kill Yourself with your host, Leo Flowers. I am he. We have a great guest for you today. We have entrepreneur and book author Kamal Ravikant. He's authored a few books, most notably Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It. We talk about a lot of things today. We get into how to have a sense of wonder and play. Yeah. Remember playing. Remember just going out. You ain't know what was gonna happen, and you just played. They call it playing guitar because you're just discovering what happens, and you're exploring what happens when you move your fingers across the spring and the strings, and to play outside. And so we talk about how important that is for life and growth. Instead of being caught up in the stats and the outcomes, just play, have a sense of wonder and exploration. We also talk about how Kamal was able to forgive his father, who was abusive and left at an early age. Also talk about what his biggest challenge in relationships have been. Such a great answer, and it really launches us into a deeper conversation about relationships. And of course, we talk about so much more. If you haven't, go to thrivewithleo.com for one-on-one coaching with yours truly. Let's get to tomorrow together. With that said, let's jump into the episode. What kind of workout do you do? I mean, I would imagine your routine has changed with the quarantine.
Yeah, look, I've discovered my most favorite thing in a long time, Olympic rings. Like in gymnastics Olympics, you see the guys doing the rings.
Yeah.
And I got myself a set from Amazon for like $50, and it's been a game changer. Then you just go to YouTube, and there's all these great guys and women showing how to use them and work out with them. And I don't want to go back to the gym. Like, you can get a better build than you do with weights, and I never thought I would ever say that. Especially your chest. I mean, especially your shoulders and your back and your traps. Like the classic Greek, like the Greek statue physique.
Absolutely,
you get that naturally by doing rings. And now if you look at the Olympics and you look at men's gymnastics, they have like 3 or 4 different. I don't know how many different platforms they have. They have something like, I think, the parallel bars, the pommel horse, and this and that. And you look at the guys at the rings. The ones are the most jacked on average are the guys on rings. And now I understand why. It's become my favorite thing. And it's an outdoor workout. You just hang him outdoor from a tree branch, from a railing, from a balcony, and you got yourself a full gym. Highly, highly recommended, man.
Man, there's nothing better than working out outside under the sun, that breeze, that air. And the rings are a game changer. When I meet gymnasts or people who were gymnasts like 10, 20 years ago, they still have the muscles. It's not like football players who like a week later lose all the things once they quit playing football. Gymnasts, because they got that deep tissue muscle that just lasts forever.
Yeah. It's fun, man. It's play. There's this YouTube account. This guy, I think he's down your way. His account's called Tao Physique, TAO Physique. He's fun. He just makes it really fun. He'll show you a whole workout, then he'll get high and then, sign off. And it's just really fun and real. And I've been like learning from him and a couple other YouTubers. And it's like these days, man, if you want to learn something, it's available to you. You got like all these people teaching you. And so my workouts are now rings. And I started doing box jumps because I realized I wasn't doing much cardio or any cardio, let's be honest. So I did, box jump. I just jump on the back of patio, like on furniture, right? And just do box jumps and rings. That's my workout these days. I love it.
So simple and so effective that you can feel like your core getting stronger.
Oh man, you don't even think about your core because you got to use it. Yeah. It's funny. You don't have to think about these things. It's like, as long as you do proper form, you're using all the things that tell you in all these different modalities to focus on and use. You're just using it naturally. It's the best. It's literally my favorite thing. I could do entire podcast episodes and just talk about how much I love the rings.
Yeah, I would imagine up there in San Fran, there's like a huge ring community, right? Are you
No,
meeting
no, no. I'm
people
just
or
on
no?
my own, man. I'm just
Really?
happened to be here during lockdown. I was visiting family, and I'm I actually stay in New York a lot. And but I didn't feel like going back to New York because all the stuff that's happening. No, I'm on my own. There's no community. There's just I've just been teaching myself.
Wow. Now,
Yeah.
you mentioned how much fun it is. Like, what else are you doing for fun? Like, you sound so excited about that. Is there anything else lighting you up right now?
Dude, rings. It is like if I could do them twice a day, I would. You know, like you just can't. You got to take a break from them because they not only work your muscle, but they pull your connective tissue and your tendons and your ligaments. So you got to like work your way with them, right? But they work everything. Outside of that, I've been spending just a lot of my time reading and thinking about um, what I want to create in the world and in life. And so um, I do a venture fund, and so I'm raising my next fund. Just putting those pieces in place, and I think that I'll be those pieces in place will be done by I think early next week, and then I'll start raising money there. And what I do there is, as a venture fund, I invest in startups, and Silicon Valley startups. So that I'm doing a lot of reading. I'm studying, not studying, but like watching a lot of interviews because I'm going to start my own podcast. I think, because I just for the fun of it, people I just want to learn from. I'm curious about. Um, for example, and then what else? Just that, man. Just like kind of like exploring, playing, and that's it.
I love that. Talking about the rings, and I know you've always been very active. You were in the military and you hiked the Himalayas. And I have to ask you this because me and my girl just got back from Peru right before not
Nice.
before, but during the quarantine. We had to cut the Peru trip short because we had 24 hours to get out of there before they shut the whole place down.
Wow.
That's a whole. My listeners are tired of hearing that story, but what I discovered in hiking, because I know you've hiked to a lot of base camps, and I don't know if you had this experience. Have you heard of HAPE? HAPE?
Refresh my memory.
It's
High
high
altitude, some
altitude
pulmonary.
pulmonary edema, which is
Yeah.
just a technical term for boner. Did you?
Really? I
Yeah.
did not know that.
When I hiked up in Peru, I was like, "Yo, I'm feeling real vascular," and I didn't know if it was the food we're eating because you're eating different foods, and then I talked to one of the tour guides, and he says, "Yeah, at a high altitude, it's called HAPE, high altitude. A lot of people who hike like Mount Everest and all these higher altitude climbs experience it." And I was like, "Whoa!" And my girlfriend was like,
Can also kill
"Damn,
you though, man.
yeah."
There's that. You know.
But you've been a risk taker. I mean, speaking of almost killing you, you almost came close to death, right? In October.
hmm
Could
hmm
you tell us about that?
Yeah, I won't go into too much about it because I'm getting over it.
Okay.
But basically, I went in for elective surgery, and they had to bypass some arteries that they moved around and stitch around. And 12 hours after surgery, that one of the main arteries that they had moved around basically burst, and I bled to death. And the only thing that saved me was I hadn't just checked out of the hospital yet, so they did emergency surgery to saved my life. And that was the emergency surgery was very, very traumatic, and the recovery from it was very traumatic. A lot of pain. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. But now I'm coming to life. I'm coming alive. It's only in the last month and a half I've started noticing that I'm just coming to life, and so that's why I really don't want to need to go back and revisit it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just good to start feeling alive.
I love that, and I would
But
imagine.
man, I experienced it. I experienced like the dying thing. It was holy cow. It's something.
I would imagine that with your book, Love Your Life Like Your Love Yourself Like Your
Love
Life
yourself.
Depends on It.
Yeah.
That you, in that time since you've written it, have discovered new ways of loving yourself, or is it still the
No, man. The
same
foundation.
process or
Foundation's a
foundation is there
foundation.
for you?
Foundation's a foundation. You got to apply it through a lot of. I mean, I go deeper into it just because I'm fascinated by the nature of reality. I want to see where I can take it, but the foundation is the foundation. It's the same basic principles, and the way I lay it out actually in the book is like, I really lay it out with all the nuances, and I tell people like, make it your own, make it part of your own human experience, see where it takes you.
Yeah, I think that's why a lot of people have a hard time with self help books because every book has a different foundation and different routine, and so we're going from book to book instead of just saying, you know what, this is what it's going to be, and this is what I'm sticking to, and then like as you said, like just fiercely sticking to it and not deviating from that.
Well, look, man, I'll be honest. I think reason why most people have a hard time with self-help books is I think most self-help books are garbage. I'm not, I'll just be honest. They're written from theory. They're written like with platitudes and all this stuff, but like a platitude never changed or saved someone's life. And when's the last time an Instagram quote really transformed your life? Like most of these books might as well just be a collection of Instagram quotes. I'm not a self-help writer. I'm a guy who's done things, and I happen to be a writer who cares deeply about the craft of writing. So I've used that knowledge to actually just share my practical experience. And I think that's honestly why it does well, is because it is practical, it's human, rather than just platitudes. I never set out to be the love yourself guy, and I don't consider myself to be the love yourself guy. I'm just a guy who works on himself to be better. And one thing I've learned is, it all starts with the inside. Work on being better on the inside. You do that, the rest shifts. And every time I've stopped doing that, I've learned the hard way. That's what you got to do, Kamal. Work on the inside.
Where did that message come from? Did you feel like that was something ingrained in you from your parents to always that get
It
better?
came from it's in the book, the experience of how I came up with it, but it was in a place of desperation where I basically like came up with it to try as a way to try to save myself.
Mm.
Given the title of your podcast. So I was in that place, and it's something that really helped me and saved me. And I just would share with friends, and it would help them. And then, one convinced me to write a little book on it because he knew I could write. So I did. I wrote a little book, self-published on Amazon, and became one of Amazon's success stories. And then I did something which, because I didn't know any better, but now I do anyway. I put my email address in the back of the book, and I said, look, if you have any questions, just email me. And guess what? When the book took off, if people did, I have, so many emails from readers all over the world. And it was amazing. You'd be amazed how many emails I've gotten saying literally this book stopped them from killing themselves. But then I've also gotten emails where just like people saying this book made them better, their life better, they're a better parent or better whatever. And I also got a lot of questions. What the original thing I just wrote out was a little primer, more just to share with friends, more than anything, that I would buy copies and share with them so I don't have to keep telling them exactly what to do. And so I set out, I spent a year actually like really digging through all the questions and all the stuff that I held back on, because it was too personal. And then I wrote the book that now that I know that this book has having the impact it has, let me put the real book, the full thing out. So that's what came out in January of 2020. Yeah. So as far as coming up, this wasn't something I grew up with or whatever. This actually came from a place of pain and the whole practice. It was a place to just save myself.
I love that, the idea of making your pain your purpose and then also sharing
No, it
that
wasn't my
with.
purpose. Pain wasn't my purpose. Pain is not my purpose, man. It was overcoming it. It was getting to the other side, like being done with it. And you don't get done with pain by fighting pain. You fight darkness, you just get more darkness. You got to focus on the light. And that's literally what this was. Is, like one of the metaphors someone shared with me once was like, look, darkness is the absence of light. You don't fight darkness. You don't fight fears. You don't fight worries. They will just drag you in. What you do is you go to the nearest window, you pull out your rag, and you start cleaning the window, and the light comes in. And the light that comes in naturally takes away the darkness. So your job is to clean the window of your mind. That's what this whole thing is. It's not about making pain my purpose, man. It's quite the opposite.
How are you cleaning the window?
That's what this whole practice is. The whole love yourself practice. That's what's in the book. That's my practice of cleaning the window.
With the meditation, the affirmations, looking yourself in the eye.
Well, yeah, but it's all of that, but it's a practice, right? It's not just a meditation. It's like all those things are like, and I also have a degree. I have a background in science as well, so I know I have a degree in biology. I know how the brain works. So I kind of like based it on that for myself. I did this all for myself. So all these things, there's nuances on it that just kind of build up on it, and this is all stuff that I can do anytime during the day. While we're having this conversation, there's a part of me that's just running it, right? We already have our mind running the show anyway, like running in the background, all these crazy thoughts anyway. What I've done is just focus my mind on a particular thing that we all wired for, which is love, to various angles. And then it starts to become a way of being. And then you start to think from that place. You start to like be from that place. So your actions and your thoughts and your emotions start to rise from that place. And it starts to become more your foundation. So it's more than just like a little series of practices here and there. It's actually like almost like a way of being that I've created for myself. And then and that's what it's about. So like this 7-minute meditation or like what people call affirmation. I don't even look at it as affirmation, honestly, man. Most affirmations are just spouting empty words. Like it's more of layering in the feeling and the concept of light and love within yourself. Like I'm really using every sense, every feeling, every emotion I can in there, just layering again until it becomes a part of me, until it starts to run on its own. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I've recently, I know that you love the I love myself as the loop, and one of the things that I use for myself in my practice is how do I show up with more vitality? And it's a question that I repeat over and over. And you're right, because when you choose your loop and you loop it in, you start to look for ways in which you can align with that loop. You start to look for that open. Start to look for ways to love yourself, and you start to look for love, and or you look for vitality. But it's that loop is something that you over time you start to groove in there, and then it becomes a new neural pathway, and it becomes something that you're not necessarily intentionally having to do. It just becomes a part of your loop and who you are. It's like a song. You don't
Yeah.
try to memorize it. It's just something that you hear it enough times, and then it becomes part of it. You start singing it.
Yeah, loops and questions are different. Questions are really powerful, man. Like there's a question that I have in the book that I go deeper into, which is just a question I would ask myself, which is if I loved myself, what would I do? Now the key part of this is if, because that stops the mind from saying, well, you don't love yourself, buddy, or it doesn't answer or whatever. All you ask yourself in the situation, in the moment, or ask yourself, if I love myself, would I let myself experience this? And then you answer it to yourself and you know the truth to yourself. Now you can live it or you could choose to disregard it. That's up to you. But you do this enough, and eventually, like your question, you will start actually living the answer. Because we're just human beings. We naturally want to step up, whether we have been or not. There's a part of us that when we ask ourselves that question enough time, we will step up and start making those choices. So questions are great, but I think that they're different than the loop, though. A loop is actually like reinforcing thoughts and emotions so that they actually become your part of your wiring that's running the show. But questions are very, very powerful. That's a great question to ask yourself.
When you talk about looking yourself in one eye versus the other, what's the biology behind that? You said you use some science. What effect does that have of running the loop and looking
Um,
ourselves in the eye?
Look, it's not as simple as just looking yourself in the mirror and doing this. Like I said, it's basically like a little like a whole thing I've created that feeds upon each other, not just one off, right? But the whole thing about the left eye and right eye was, in all honesty, and I said that in the book, like I just did it. I was practicing on myself, and I just noticed that things shifted more when I look at myself in the left eye. I know there's biological reasons for it, but I really don't care. What I care about is what works. And I'm very honest about like, look, this worked for me. You can try either or, but like what that practice is designed to do is actually, after a while, it makes you fall in love with your physical self. You'll just notice it because you're focusing on the feeling and emotion of love for yourself while looking yourself in the eye and connect that with breath and light. And we all, when we look in our eyes, um, we bypass the all the garbage we tell ourselves about ourselves, about our physical selves. So that's what that's about. But I don't honestly, man, like there's a reason why I don't go into the neuroscience in the book. I'm not a PhD in neuroscience, nor do I care about it. I just care about what works, what makes me better. So I purposely left out all that stuff, and because there's no need to, in the end, it's like just this is what works. Try it out.
I love that. And the other to tag on to that is I found that that's also a way for listeners out there, anybody out there who struggle with connecting with other people or social anxiety, is that when you meet someone, if you look them in their eye and you take the time to notice their eye color, it helps to ground you in the moment. And when I remember when I read that somewhere, I realized like how few times I actually took someone in enough to notice their eye color.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a great practice. That's a great practice. I mean, look, but classic. The eyes are the windows to the soul.
I would imagine, during this quarantine that do you have a sleep routine that you
Nah,
practice?
man,
No,
it's all over the place.
I love that. Like, so I mean, I could tell like just from reading your book and listening to your interviews, you're a guy who's moved by like intuition, feel, but like also like this, like you have to earn it and kind of push yourself and find ways to get better. What's the biggest challenge for you right now?
Look, the biggest challenge was like I was dealing with a lot of physical pain, right? So I was just healing through it and not letting that just because pain grinds you down. Pain is just, physical pain is a beast. And just, biggest, I don't look at anything. Biggest challenge now is just like, being self motivated. So the way for me to do that is like be curious about things and enjoy them. And so then motivation stops being a problem, like rings. It's literally become play. Like it's my playtime during the day. So you don't have to like, I don't need motivation. I don't need motivation. I don't need anything like that because I just want to go play during the day. So for me, I'm not answering your question, am I?
No, that
Ask me the question
actually,
again.
no, that actually is a great answer because when we're talking about people who end their lives, a lot of people are like type A perfectionists, and we forget about the power of play, of just doing things for doing its sake and to discover what happens, to explore the process, to be in the moment versus quantifying everything. As you said, like there's a reason why you didn't go into the neuroscience. You were tuning into your body and focused on what works for you, what's effective for you versus what are all the books and articles and journals, et cetera, and the doctors say. It's like, what am I noticing versus what is everybody else telling me to do? And I feel like a lot of people who are perfectionists and end their lives are people who are pulled by what other people are telling them. They forget to play. Just play and explore and be curious and ask more questions. And instead of feeling like we have to know the answers to everything. So you definitely answered that question, and I appreciate you sharing that part.
Sure, man. I mean, look, the thing about ending our lives, I've been close to it. It's different reasons. I don't know if it's all. I think sometimes we just, we get caught up in whatever the garbage we're going through at the time and think that's it. And it seems like that's just too much. That's all it's gonna be. And we forget that there's another side to these things that sometimes, there's like life, death, rebirth. And when I say death, it's not the literal death, but death of maybe an experience or something you gotta let go to have the rebirth. so you can be, the phoenix. Um, I don't know if there's a clear answer to, people struggle, man, and sometimes it's you make a permanent. It's easy to make that choice of making a permanent decision to a temporary situation, right? That's what killing yourself is. It's a permanent decision to a temporary situation most of the times. Having been in intense physical pain, I'm starting to understand what, physical pain can even drive you to want to just be done with it. But then you just start looking at whatever, like, I mean, look, I was eating my own dog food while I was going through this, right? I was doing what I practiced in the book that helped me get through this. And, and I think I'm better. My mind is way better because of all the work I did that I put into it. While I was going through this, just to survive through it. And now that I'm coming on the other side, I'm better. I am better. I'm not saying I would want to do it again. I definitely wouldn't. It's tough, man. It's tough when you're there. I've lost friends to suicide, and each one had their own reason. And pain can just feel like that's the entire world. That's your life. It's hard, And if only one can realize that, that it is a temporary situation, and so don't make a permanent solution to a temporary situation.
Can we go back to your childhood for a second and
Mm.
how you grew up and what was that? What was the city like, and what was the energy like in terms of your childhood?
It wasn't easy, man. An abusive dad. My mom left my dad, took my brother and I. We were on the streets. We were living off nothing at one point, and for a long time, we grew up in nothing. Grew up in so there was nothing good. I mean, there's nothing about the city or good anything that I can think of. It was survival. I don't paint rosy pictures over it. Just being honest about it. It was just survival and get through it and get out. And so that's all it was.
I would imagine that some of that anger, I mean, when you're in survival, fight or flight, abusive dad, some feelings of anger I would imagine, were there for you, and it also helps to fuel you as in a constructive way, looking at all the things that you've been able to accomplish over time. Do you feel like that at all?
Honestly, anything great I've accomplished has never been through anger, ever. I can't think of one great thing I've accomplished. I wouldn't be use the word great for myself, my personal life. Um, it's been through anger. I'm not a fan of it. It's been more through like curiosity, exploration, and wanting to grow or challenge myself. It's never been through anger.
When you talk about curiosity in terms of uh, in relationships, are you seeing anyone right now?
No, I'm by myself.
And what's been a challenge in relationships for you, do you think?
I don't know, man. That's a good question. Um, I don't know. That's a good question. What's been the challenge of a relationship? Because each one is so different. Each person is so different. The only constant being me, right? Uh, I don't know. Each one has had its own growth. So I don't know. I can't say there's a consistent challenge in each one. I think maybe the challenge I face is that like if any time relationships ended, I kind of like forget who I am and kind of just like forget myself and rather than and being the suffering of the relationship ending versus remembering who I am and what I'm capable of and um, more to the loss of the other person not having me in their life versus vice versa, you know. So I don't know if that's the right answer, but that's what I got.
No, that is, it's not about right or wrong, right? It's about our truth. And I can definitely relate to that. Me and my girl, we met in October of last year, and I'm currently one of my struggles is how much for me, how much for her, how much for the relationship, and what that balance is. Because I realized not I grew up with my mom and my dad wasn't around, and with my dad not being there, I was never modeled what a healthy relationship looks like. And it's all about sacrifice and love, but there's also, like, as you say, self-love, and how much do I take care of myself, and how much do you give over to the relationship, and how do you do that without
Yeah,
losing
yeah, yeah.
yourself? That balance is that's something I haven't been modeled, so I find that I'm going in extremes.
Yeah, I don't think extremes works in relationships.
No, it doesn't work in anything. Relationships with women or food or
Actually,
drugs,
the
sex.
extremes like obsession, does work. And like to build anything great, you have to go to extreme and be obsessed. To write a book, to build a company, to build anything great, you do need the ones that we all celebrate in the culture. You don't we don't. If you peel back the curtain behind their lives, they live a life of extremes, like Olympic athletes. Their life is nothing but an extreme, right? Sacrifice everything. So it works in some things, but there's a cost, there's a price. I don't think it works in relationships.
Yeah, when I read a lot of biographies, and the guys who were just all about the work, the relationship suffered on some level, and if not the relationship with their spouse, the relationship with the kids. There was one with the guy who voices Elmo. There's a Netflix documentary about him, and he achieved great success with voicing Elmo, but because of the demand and the work schedule, he really wasn't around for his daughter. And there was a scene where his daughter was like, "Can you just be here for 2 days?" And she's like 17. And so you're right. It's like, if you're gonna achieve something great, something has to give, and it's usually the relationship, unfortunately, for a
I
lot of
don't think it
people.
has to, but that's just the way. I mean, look, uh, it requires that to. I mean, I'm just looking at as you said, like the biographies of people, right? People can find that balance, but usually I think they find the ones I know, they find the balance is if after they've had their success, and then they can relax. Those are the ones I've noticed who have balance and are successful. But I don't know anyone who had balance and got that high level of success. Yeah, but the irony is all the people I know who are balanced and not successful preach to others about being balanced early on, but they didn't have it. It's not what got them there.
Well, especially, you're up in San Fran, close to Silicon Valley. I mean, those guys are 24/7 on the grind, on a hustle, phones on at all times. And so you're absolutely right. Early on, it's extreme, and then later on, they start to, spend more time with the family, friends, relax, and so. But a lot of people don't get that far for whatever reason. Do you feel like you're at a place of calm at this place in your life with things that you've done, or is there still like this? I know you're talking about getting better and what you're doing is fun right now, but is there a feeling of something that still needs to be done?
Always, man. There's always another book to write. I don't like resting on my laurels. You know, more new things to do. How can I grow? I get bored if I'm not growing. And look, writing books is my thing. It's why I was put on this earth, and I'm fortunate that my books actually have such a strong effect on people across the world. Um, so, like, I have a duty to continue to grow and learn and experience and distill it. Get the knowledge and distill it down into words and then share it.
Is there a story that you've received that has greatly impacted or shifted you in some way, in
What do
regards
you
to
mean
the
from a
book?
reader?
Yeah, from a reader.
Man, I get them every day. I literally get them every day. Like heartbreaking to life affirming, heartbreaking in the sense where people come from. I mean, it's insane. It's amazing. Like just absolutely amazing. People are so lovely. Like one of the best things I ever did in my life, which I did not knowing any better, was putting my email address in my book, and now I do it on purpose. Like if you read my work, you know me and you know what I'm about. Just reach out, and people do. Sometimes, I mean, look. I'm not a therapist. I have no desire to be someone's therapist. But people are just really kind and giving, and just let you know the impact of your words. Like I got this one recently. Some stand out more than others, obviously, just because of the stories. Um, I got this one recently from a 26-year-old woman. She said, like, look, um, your book single-handedly stopped me from. Well, she said, well, first, look, this is my. She said I gave her history. She said she was molested till ninth grade. Then after that, she was sold off to a drug dealer by her cousin. Okay, that can't be fun. Like, literally, she was a slave to the drug dealer. Then she became a prostitute. She was a prostitute for a while. And she said, and I'm also like, she said, I'm smart. I'm like, I'm straight A's, and I'm actually right now getting my JD MBA. And she said, but she struggles, with her past every day. And every day, she loves cutting herself, and described how that felt. She was a good writer. You could tell this was a smart person, the way she described it. And she said, after reading your book, it did for me what 11 years of therapy couldn't. I haven't cut myself in 2 weeks. And like, I am finally like starting to feel like about myself in a way I never have. It blew my mind because this is a woman I never would have met in my life, and I probably will never meet her in person. Someone I never would have been able to tell my story and what worked for me and how just one can do it. And that's the power of like taking your work and distilling it to the essence and putting it out to the world. You get stuff like that. Like you make impact in ways you never could have imagined. It's beautiful.
Absolutely. To backtrack a little bit, when you talked about having an
Hmm.
abusive dad and him not being around, have you been able to forgive your dad? And if so, how were you able to do that?
Yeah, I wrote a novel called Rebirth, and the novel actually takes place in Spain. It's about a guy walking across Spain after the death of his father, and the people he meets along the way, and what they teach him about life and love and forgiveness. Fundamentally, the novel's one of the main things the novel is about is forgiveness, and it's about him forgiving his father. It was based on me forgiving my father, and fundamentally, it came down to just realizing that he was human. That's what it comes down to. Realizing they're human. They're a shit show just as much as we are. Everyone's a shit show trying to do their best. That's all it is.
It's
You
so,
know, Uh, that's it.
I love. I mean, it's so simple, right? And we do try to wrap it up in these beautiful, as you say, platitudes about humanity and people. And I think that like part of it is when we're a kid and we're looking at adults, there's a part of our brain that goes, "Oh, once I become an adult, I'm done." Like adults know everything, and then you realize like adults are struggling as much as everybody else. Your dad is struggling. The professor's struggling. We all have our internal things that we are dealing with, and we're doing our best with what we've been given in life. And yeah, when you start to look at people as, listen, this is just he's a human being, and that's how human beings. So that's what human beings do sometimes. It does make it a bit easier to forgive than to feel like
Yeah,
it's personal.
and the thing is, forgiveness frees us. We all know that. Cliche enough as that sounds, I'm sure there's enough Instagram quotes about it. But literally, in the end, it forgives us. But the most important forgiveness I've also learned is still forgiving ourselves. And I have this process I walk readers through in the book, in the Love Yourself book. And the second part of the book, which I call the manual, where literally I want to sit down and write the definitive manual on how to step by step love yourself. And the first step is actually forgiving yourself. And I walk them through an exercise I've done many times over the years. Not many times, but I do maybe once a year, where I literally like go through a process and I forgive myself for everything I'm carrying. You realize when you do it, when you let go, the weight of what you were carrying. And it's the weight, man. It's not even what we carry. It's not the memories. It's not the this and that. It's the weight of it. So the forgiveness is letting go of the weight. It's not saying it was okay. It's not saying that it should have happened, but you're letting go of the weight, you know, that you're carrying about it. And that in itself is like, will change things in your life.
Yeah, I love that. It's there's so many things that we are weighing ourselves down and blaming ourselves for, whether it's your parents divorcing or losing the house or so many other things that are out of our control. And you're right. If we that's why I love journaling so much and writing, because those things start to
Mm-hmm.
come up and things come up that you don't even realize were there, that were weighing you. It's like cleaning out your attic. You know, you go up there, you're like, God, I forgot all about this stuff, and had no idea it was just up here accumulating dust and
Well,
weighing us down.
yeah, it's like backpacking, man. Or like when I was in the army, right? I was in the infantry, right? So we used to carry gear. I mean, I used to carry the gear that I carried. I have times weighed as much as I did. You know, if you count you take your M16 and your ammo and the all the stuff, and then I was in the mountain infantry, so we just took everything with us and everything I was carrying, and you realize, just the price, just the weight of what you carry. So it was literally like every single thing in your backpack you made sure it was absolutely necessary. Like if you didn't need that extra pair of socks, you didn't take it, right? Because after a couple of miles, after a couple of clicks, man, that thing gets heavy. And it's the same thing in life, like the weight of what we carry.
Man, how long were you in the military for?
I ended up doing total of 3 years, part of it in the reserves.
And was there a lesson that stood out to you from the military that resonates with you?
I don't know about a lesson. I mean, it was a very good experience for an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
Being Fort Benning, Georgia, in the middle of the summer, all of a sudden, being trained to be a soldier, it was good for me. I look back at that with gratitude, and I'm grateful for I'm grateful and proud for having had that experience. It's just good for me at that age,
I love it.
and I carry that with me.
When I think about the military, I think one of the great things about the military is that it shows that people from all walks of life. Because I've done some comedy shows for troops overseas, and you see
So
these
that's
guys.
really cool.
Yeah, man, we're in Japan, Pakistan.
Wow.
Well, actually, Pakistan was for the people, and where else? Italy. So we're in a few overseas military bases in Europe and Asia. And one of the things that stood out to me was, man, here are a bunch of guys from, black, white, Asian, all different, ethnic backgrounds.
Yeah, you're equally made to suffer together.
Yeah, yeah,
That's what
gang
military does,
members,
man.
white supremacists, all of them.
Yep,
They're just
yep.
and
I
they are
remember that,
become
man.
brothers at the end, right?
Yeah,
It'd be
yeah,
like a
yep.
fascinating, like,
It
wow,
really
okay.
is, man. It really, really is. I remember my platoon in boot camp, man. It was exactly, we had gangbangers, we had white supremacists, the whole works, right? By the end, we were a platoon, you know? Military is great for that. It's a great leveler in our society that I think some people, we have to give more credit for than we do.
Right, but versus just judging someone by the by the way they look. I mean, even for me, I know if I see a white guy with a shaved head and tattoos and stuff, I'm like, oh, white But I don't know, and that guy that may have been a path for him in the past, and now because of the military or some other experience, he's changed now and has a different perspective on life but so that's why I love your idea of like being motivated by curiosity and being led by curiosity and exploration and play, so that we always have that, as Steve Jobs always said, that childlike mindset. He said, "Don't be childish, but you always want to be childlike, so that you can explore the world and everything's new to you at all times."
Yeah, that's a great mindset. That is a great mindset.
What are
It's
you
good to
reading?
remember.
What are you reading right now? You said you're reading a lot. What's is there a book that you are?
Um, The book I currently have, I think I was going to read more of tonight. Was It's a Neil Gaiman book, and I See Boys, I think is what it's called. Neil Gaiman, is fucking talented. He's a really talented writer, and he does like playful writing, more in the fantasy genre, which I don't normally read. And this isn't really fantasy. It's just his stuff is fun. It's delightful to read. Uh, I'm reading like writings by mystics from different religions that go back 100 years, couple 100 years. I'm fascinated. I want to figure, like their whole thing about what is the nature of reality, what exactly is God, their experience of connecting with God, not going through a priest or a particular path, but the direct experience. Um, Reading some of that. I'm reading screenplays. I love I love entertain. Look, I think deep enough. So like, I like being entertained when I watch movies. I love The Rock. He's like, I love his movies. I'm reading screenplays. I'm just like anything that interests me. And screenplay movies wise, I'm reading their screenplays or like friends of mine who are talented screenwriters, the ones they recommend. 'Cause it's a new way of learning storytelling. It's a very different way of telling a story than writing a novel or a nonfiction book. So I'm doing that kind of like for fun and also for learning. And something I've learned is that you may learn across various disciplines, but you will find that you're absorbing and you're going to apply it in whatever you do, and it'll come out in very interesting ways. So actually, as we think about it, and I think since you mentioned Steve Jobs, that's what Steve Jobs said too, right? He studied calligraphy in college, completely unrelated to anything. Didn't seem like it was going to go anywhere, and because of that, we finally had like really nice fonts on a computer because he studied calligraphy. I took a calligraphy class in college because he was curious. He wanted to learn. Not about it had nothing to do with his major or career.
Oh man, I'm glad that you brought up screenwriting. I was actually reading earlier today about how do you build a character because I've gone out for some acting roles and I have
Nice.
my agents contacting me again about some stuff. And what I love is that as I am, trying to fill in the blanks on how to build a character, I realize these are questions and things that everyone should look at because we're talking about curiosity. We also have assumptions about ourselves and who we are and what we're motivated by. And it's not until we start asking the deeper questions that we start to go, oh, wait, that's not true. Or that if this happened, then that couldn't have, or, we start to discover parts of ourselves that, that we had either put up in an attic in a box under another box, and that's something that could help propel us forward. I know you in the book you left out the neuroscience of it all, but in people struggling with depression and anxiety and all these different mental health issues, the hippocampus suppresses our good memories and allows us to remember those positive or the negative memories. So we'll forget about all the great, ways in which we've loved ourselves or have had fun throughout the day and remember that one incident that really pissed us off at the grocery store or that person that cut us off. And so when we do the same things with our life, we remember like the negative parts and have a hard time remembering all the great times or the fun times or the parts that allowed us to grow. And so it was a great reminder and a great way for me to go back and remind myself of some of the resources and skills that I have. And I it's something I would recommend to everybody who's listening in is ask yourself more questions and dig a little deeper.
Yeah, that's really good. I know Tony Robbins is also very, very much into asking questions. I forget what he calls it. He has a thing he calls it. I've listened to some video with him where he's very big into the power of asking questions.
I think it was Jocko Willink. I'm not. It was someone. It's either Jocko Willink or some FBI or military guy, and they talk. They call it the 5 whys, and it's in some military. It's like a Navy SEALs thing or something like that, where if you ask someone why 5 times, the fifth why gets you to the source of what's really driving you or
That's
motivating you.
interesting. I'm gonna remember that. I didn't know that. Jocko's great. I've had dinner with him. I've hung out with him. Jocko's Jocko, man. He's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. I would ask him. I don't like I said. I don't remember if it was him, but I know it was. I got that from It was a military guy who was in the Navy SEALs, and it's something that I've actually used in relationships. Like my girl, like we'll have some type of discourse or argument, or disagreement, and I'll ask her. I'll be like, what was this about? And she'll say X, and then I'll go, oh, okay, well, tell me more about X, and then she'll say something else, and I'll ask her the same thing like five. I have her click through 5 times, and then we get to the source of what was really going on,
Mm.
it creates such a levity because she feels it and I feel it, and then there's this like there's a growth because we're both having an insight or aha moment that we otherwise wouldn't have had if we had just taken what was said at the surface level, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's good. I'm gonna remember that.
Is Have you read Chris Voss's book? Never split
No,
the
what's it called?
Never split the difference.
No, I haven't.
That if the whole thing about the five whys resonates with you, that's a book you'll want to check out. Also, um, Kamal, is there anything that we haven't discussed that you think would be of value to the listeners who are struggling with loving themselves or chronic pain or depression?
Look, man, those are all very big things, right? Look, here's what I would say. Fundamentally, it comes down to this, however, was it 3.5 or whatever pounds of gray matter in between our skull, and we're living our life in that place. Everything is there. That's where life starts. That's where I mean, at least the self, right? So if you want to get better, work on that. Work on the inside. The work outside will resolve itself when you do that. That's something I've learned. How it is, you can read my book, you can read another book, whatever, but find something that's true to you and then just go all in on making your inside better. And that's what's going to change everything. And another thing is, don't just get there and say, okay, it's done. Now I'm good. It's like, working out for a while and getting in shape and saying, okay, I'm done. I'm good. Now I'm going to go eat bonbons and watch, TV for the rest of my life. Guess what's going to happen? The mind is more plastic. So it's, it's not a curse, it's a blessing, but you'll always have to work on it. But that's good because you'll be growing. It's like, it's just the nature of the beast. It's the hardware. The body is a certain way. You have to continuously work on it to get muscles, to be fit. Well, same thing with the mind. And what we forget is that, we easily go on a diet or we'll easily join a gym program and get a personal trainer. But how many people spend time working on their mind daily? Set time aside for your mind. That's where transformation is going to happen. That's what I'd like to leave people with.
I love it. Please plug all your things, the books, where they can find it, where they can contact you, all the things.
All right. So the book is "Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It." I would guess, given the nature of the topic of this podcast, I would say that would be the one to get. And I have a couple others. I have the novel "Rebirth" and the book called "Live Your Truth." But "Love Yourself" is where I would start if you're interested in my work. And then as for finding me, you can find me on the usual places, Twitter, Instagram, just my full name, Kamal Ravikant. I wish you the best of luck in spelling it, but I'm sure if you try and Google, it'll fix it for you and it'll tell you exactly how to find me. Simple.
I love it. And last question, I just asked this of
Mm-hmm.
all my guests, because I always imagine there's one person listening in who may be on the precipice of ending their life. Before you kill yourself, what would you say to them? Come on.
I would say, look, I've been there, more than one time. Um, there's another side. Use this to come out and be reborn. You got nothing to lose, so use this to become the phoenix. Really, that is what the prize is. If you go through this, you will become your own phoenix. We don't realize that. We think, right? Remember, if you go through fire, you're going to come out as a phoenix. If you're going through a fire, continue, work on your inside, come out the other side, and be the phoenix.
Thank you, Kamal. Thank you, listeners. Remember, this podcast is not a substitute for you going to get help, for you calling the 1-800-SUICIDE number or 273-TALK. You can always go to thrivewithleo.com for coaching with yours truly. Let's get to tomorrow together. Thank you so much, Kamal.
Well, it was a pleasure. I'm honored to be here. Thank you.